Welcome to this edition of Like Nobody's Business. I'm Mary Beth Seawald. In January, the Vegas Chamber hosted Preview Las Vegas, the Super Bowl of economic forecasting events in our entire region. The event was held at the new West Hall of the Las Vegas Convention Center. Our speaker lineup was absolutely dynamic and especially insightful.
Good morning, everybody. You like my ride that I came in on this morning? Nice, huh? Welcome to Preview Las Vegas. On behalf of all of us at the Vegas Chamber, we are so honored to have all of you with us today, our community leaders, our business leaders. We're so happy that you're here because this is an event that I promise will be inspiring, it'll be exciting, and it will definitely be informative today. So thank you all so much for coming. Look at where we are. Here we are in this great, one-of-a-kind convention center hall in what is the greatest arena on earth, Las Vegas. Today's event showcases our confidence that Las Vegas really is recharged and ready for the next chapter of business in Las Vegas history. I mean, come on, think about it, right? The one-of-a-kind MSG Sphere, the 2024 Super Bowl, right? Yes, I know, our friends. Yes, of course, the Super Bowl over here. I saw Sam somewhere. And of course, Formula One racing, right? Yes, super exciting. You know, in most cities, to have even just one of these opportunities would be a really big deal. But to have all three of these monumental events happening in about 6 months, I mean, that's just incredible. It's absolutely unbelievable. And only Vegas could make that happen. So now, let's get a preview of our world-class speakers today. They're going to be sharing their thoughts with us. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to hear a lot. And you'll really get a lot of insights that'll put you in the driver's seat for 2023. So get ready for a great preview, Las Vegas.
Our first speaker is no stranger to the preview stage. Jeremy Aguero is a principal analyst and with applied analysis. Jeremy is going to share what's down the road for our economy and the twists and turns you may have to navigate. Please join me now in welcoming Jeremy Aguero.
Good morning. It is good to see you all. It is fantastic to be here. I have immense gratitude not only for the friends that I've seen in the audience, but obviously to the Chamber of Commerce and all of the remarkable sponsors that make this event possible. My job is to give you a little bit of an economic update and a preview today. I've entitled my presentation, What's Next? Because it's the question that I get more than any other. But before we talk about where we sort of are heading, it's helpful to talk about where it is that we've been over the past 10 years. And it has been an absolutely remarkable 10-year period. Let's just talk about some of the things that we have seen over the past 10 years. In 2012, we opened T3, $2.4 billion expansion to Harry Reid Airport. Excuse me, I was going to use the wrong term there. Still trying to get used to it. In 2013, our hotels and casinos along the Las Vegas Strip report losing $1.3 billion overall. One of the most difficult periods we've seen. Where are we today? A period of remarkable prosperity. We think about 2014, Uber comes on the scene, changes transportation for us in Southern Nevada. I don't even think we can imagine what it would be like today without that. In 2015, we represent 4 out of the top 5 nightclubs anywhere in the United States and 7 out of the top 10. For the first time ever, building $100 million nightclubs people thought would be just impossible, and yet we did it. On April 6th of 2016, we opened T-Mobile Arena, today arguably the most profitable and successful arena anywhere in the world, located in Las Vegas today. In 2017, we have both tragedy and triumph in our community, ushering in an era of professional sports as we know today. In 2018, we start taking steps toward innovating our tourism industry, opening up the esports arena and thinking about what we are going to do next in terms of moving our tourism economy forward. 2019, we finished Project Neon, an incredibly ambitious transportation project. And then in 2020, everything comes to a stop because of a pandemic. At the same time, we still open the Circa. We still have the very first season of our Las Vegas Raiders opening up and playing in Allegiant Stadium and where they are today. In 2021, we'd bring online Resorts World. We'd also bring on this incredible facility that we're sitting in today that allows us to have more visitors than we've ever had before. In 2022, the dialogue would largely be around global conflict, Ukraine and everything that was happening there. And we talk about gasoline prices spiking, and we talk about food prices and inflation going up. And we'd also have our first world champion professional team here in Las Vegas. Yeah. Not a bad 10-year stretch for us overall. Matter of fact, it's pretty incredible. Let's look at it in terms of just some of the numbers. What does it take to grow from 2 million people to 2.3 million people? That's 90 new residents every day for an entire decade. 330,000 new people overall. An incredible amount of growth. Enough to make us, as a state, third in the entire nation relative to how many new people we were bringing in to our community. What about in terms of job formation? Over the past decade, 67 new jobs every single day for an entire decade overall. Yeah, we can see the ups and the downs, obviously the decline during the pandemic, but adding 250,000 jobs during a 10-year stretch, yeah, that's not bad. And that growth rate is higher than almost everywhere else in the entire United States during the past decade. We added 250,000 jobs, including jobs in almost every single sector of the economy. And we diversified beyond where we were a decade ago. What about our housing prices? A lot have been talked about in terms of housing prices, most notably on the far right-hand side of the chart. Oh no, housing prices are coming down a little bit. Yeah, they are, and they ought to. During the past decade, we've gone from $118,000 to $425,000 per unit. That's an increase of 11.5% every year, compounded for a decade. 185% increase overall during the past 10 years. That's a lot. In terms of housing units, yeah, we're still building them. During the past decade, we constructed 96,000, roughly, housing units. That's 26 housing units every single day for 10 years straight. In terms of commercial real estate and industrial real estate, we've added 43 million square feet of industrial space. We've added 4.6 million square feet of retail space and almost 4 million square feet of office space just during the past decade. Let's take a look at gross gaming revenue overall. Increasing from $9 billion to $13 billion. That's an increase of about $900,000 every single day in gross gaming revenue. Not bad overall. If we look at the average daily room rate, right, sort of the other major metric in terms of how we drive things forward, it's gone from $108 per night to $165 per night. That $57 may not seem as big as some of the other statistics that I've shown you, but you combined it by millions and millions and millions of room nights, and it means profitability for an industry that just in 2013 was reporting substantial losses overall. We've increased by 10.5 million passengers. That's almost, let's call it 2,900 more passengers every day over a decade. That is a remarkable amount of time and a remarkable amount of volume. And here we are again. Record visitor volume coming through Harry Reid Airport overall. So if that's looking back 10 years, what comes next overall? So this is our population growth, 16.8% I showed you. Now let's just imagine for a moment that we do the exact same thing overall over the next decade. Are we ready to bring another 400,000 people into the urban valley? What if we can't grow quite that fast? What if it's a little bit difficult for us to be able to do that? We have got to prepare for a recession. It's coming. It's inevitable. But we need to not fear a recession. We have been incredible relative to our resolve. And to be honest with you, I think we're already in recession today, and we will be for the next year or so. right? When it comes to water, we have got to be the world leader or a world leader in conservation and innovation. It has got to become celebrity status based on how little water you are able to use. Our tourism industry, critically important to us overall. If it happens anywhere, it should be happening here. If you have your convention, more people are going to show up when you're here. You're going to have more exhibitors. If you have a concert, those ticket prices should be the highest that you can have if you have it here. When you have a football game or a hockey game, this is the place you ought to have it. We need to responsibly build all of the infrastructure that we can in Southern Nevada. Are we ready to start having a conversation about what the next capital plan looks like for Harry Reid Airport? Are we ready for that? Are we ready to start having a real conversation about whether we're going to have to step up and pay for some of I-15's expansion, even if it's on the other side of the border? Are we ready to start paying for what we need to have in order to sustain our economy going forward? Imagine what our world would be like without Harry Reid Airport, without I-15, without the 215 Beltway, without Allegiant Stadium, without T-Mobile, without all of those things. We wouldn't be anywhere near where we are today, to say nothing of the $50 billion worth of investment that is sitting on the Las Vegas Strip today. We're going to have cars racing up the Las Vegas Strip. We're going to have a Super Bowl. We're going to set records in terms of conventions and visitor volume and spending and do all of those things because of the choices we have made in this community to ensure it is not only a great place to live, but it is a great place to do business. We are dedicated to a single proposition. The party is not over until the last person goes home. And our community knows how to put on a party. We can do this. This is our home. We should be proud of it and let that prosperity continue well into the future.
As humans, we're visual creatures. In fact, American adults spend nearly 6 hours each day watching video. And we're evolving and expanding across screens. Whether we're surfing the web at work, streaming our favorite show in a waiting room, or watching the game live at home, Cox Media's digital video solutions can deliver your business's message to consumers in a way that creates a meaningful connection and drives them to take action. Grow your business. Call Cox Media today.
I can't tell you how delighted I am and privileged I feel to have this panel be able to talk to you today. You truly have the superstars of the Colorado River sitting on this panel here today. Where would we be today if we still had the attitude of the 1970s and early 1980s?
We're sitting here today 100 years to the year after we began as states working on the Colorado River with the passage excuse me, in 1923 of the Colorado River Compact. It was an important beginning, but unfortunately, it was followed by years of litigation, incredibly contentious. The antagonists were largely, but not exclusively, Arizona and California. And for 40 years, we quarreled, litigated against each other, reached incredible impasse again and again and again. And it was a really discouraging 40-year interval. It was finally settled in 1965 by the United States Supreme Court. And in the wake of that settlement in 1965, Arizona, California, and Nevada and their leaders took a step back and began to look at our respective interests in this river, and we got together and realized that working together and creating partnerships, we could get a lot done.
Where's the state of Arizona when it comes to their thinking and their actions around conservation?
So, Pat, over the years, since the 1980 Groundwater Management Act was passed, the state really led in conservation. And I know in Las Vegas, I describe Las Vegas as the hare and Arizona as the tortoise in terms of municipal conservation. We've achieved close to the same percentage reductions. When it comes to conservation for Lake Mead, however, Arizona is taking the bulk of the forced cuts under the way our agreements came out. But we've also done another 300,000 acre feet in 2022 of conservation for Lake Mead, over the 500,000 acre feet that we had to take under our cuts. And we did that by partnering with water users, and interestingly, probably a lot of that water came from tribes. And we paid them to reduce their water use to help bolster the elevation of Lake Mead. I think moving forward, some of that can still occur, but we can't pay everyone forever moving forward. I do have the unique responsibility of having 22 federally recognized tribes in my state. The tribes in my state have half of the Colorado River water of Arizona's 2.8 million acre feet. It creates a unique challenge, but also a unique opportunity moving forward. And so I think it's incumbent upon us to continue to do that conservation, both large and small. This past session in 2022, my legislature put $200 million on the table for municipal water providers to access to take out non-functional turf. I think that's the words we use here in Las Vegas. We probably use the words grass in Arizona, all the same thing. So we're moving forward and raising the bar in Arizona, following along with some of the things that Nevada did. And I was very supportive of John's letter that Secretary Babbitt referred to. And I think we have huge challenges ahead of us. It is going to be painful, and we all need to share in that pain equally.
Jeff, California is always the bugaboo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thanks to you, every time there was a crossroads and California needed to come to the table, you were the only Californian that came to the table. Now what? Where are they?
We really have formed, in the last couple decades, a very good, strong working relationship, originally with Southern Nevada, and also with the urban communities on the river and Phoenix and the Central Arizona people. And I really think that teamwork, that partnership between our urban areas is going to be incredibly important as we move forward. We have 19 million people in Southern California. That's 1 out of every 2 Californians live in Southern California, where I used to serve their water. And we are dependent on the Colorado River. The political muscle that California can bring, working with Southern Nevada, working with Phoenix, can really help us in Congress as we deal with what is effectively, in my view, is going to become a national crisis. We do have to work through this, find the ability to solve these issues, and we have to do it together. And I think people don't necessarily realize how closely linked Los Angeles is to Las Vegas. And it's not just because we both shared the Raiders. It's also, and Phoenix as well. We need to solve these together.
John, you came to the business community last year. You've asked them to do some heavy lifting. What have you seen as a result?
We have 3 major strategic advantages, in my opinion. The first is we can and have built infrastructure that nobody else can build. We've installed $1.5 billion worth of infrastructure out at Lake Mead, which guarantees our ability to pump water even if Lake Mead gets to that dead pool level. The second is we're unified. Thankfully, in the early 90s, Pat and the other community leaders here in Southern Nevada formed the Southern Nevada Water Authority so that we speak with one voice when we're in these negotiations with the other 6 states. And as Tom mentioned, with 22 Native American tribes, big agricultural sectors, Jeff was polite and didn't mention the balkanization within Southern California amongst water users, but it is a major strategic advantage that our state can speak with one voice on these issues. And third is our world-leading conservation programs. And Secretary Babbitt mentioned our plan for the river, which involves shared sacrifice. Our plan for this community has and will continue to involve shared sacrifice so that we can keep all those numbers that Jeremy showed going up even as the water level continues to go down. In the last 20 years, we've added about 800,000 people to our community. And in that same time frame, our gallons per capita per day have gone down 50%, and our net water usage has gone down 26%. just in the span of the last 3 years. Pat mentioned, the stuff that we asked for the community last year, limiting pool sizes, tearing out non-functional turf, moving to building with mechanical cooling instead of evaporative cooling. Those have all resulted in amazing numbers. From January 1, 2020 to December 31st, 2022, we added 47,000 connections across the valley. So, Durango Station, that's one connection. Every single family home, that's another connection. So 47,000 new connections. Those numbers are much higher than before the pandemic. Every single one of those 3 years was higher than 2019, 2018. And in that same 3-year period, while we added 47,000 new homes and businesses, we reduced our water consumption by another 12%. So the plan is working. The community coming together and implementing our world-leading conservation is working, but as always, conservation is not a destination, it's a journey, and we're going to have to continue on that journey for the foreseeable future.
As humans, we're visual creatures. In fact, American adults spend nearly 6 hours each day watching video, and we're evolving and expanding across screens. Whether we're surfing the web at work, streaming our favorite show in a waiting room, or watching the game live at home, Cox Media's digital video solutions can deliver your business's message to consumers in a way that creates a meaningful connection and drives them to take action. Grow your business. Call Cox Media today.
Steve Hill is the president and CEO of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Convention Authority that promotes and attracts tourism, conventions, meetings, and special events to Las Vegas. And David Kieske is the executive vice president and chief financial officer for Vici Properties, the largest property owner on the Las Vegas Strip. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Steve Hill and Dave Kieske.
Can you talk a little bit about the deal structure? I mean, I think everybody probably understands that you're basically loaning the money, you get a rent payment. But from an interaction standpoint, drawing that line between your role as the owner of the property and the operator's role as the operator of the property, what does capital maintenance structure look like? How does reinvesting in the property, not only now, but over the long term look?
Yeah, so we are what's called a triple net lease REIT, meaning we collect rent and then our tenant's responsible for real estate taxes, all the operations, and all the capital investment into the asset. No different than somebody that owns the Walgreens is the same, Pied Piper Pizzas, Starbucks. They are responsible for their upkeep of the property. So when we go in with an operator, we go in with an Apollo to buy the Venetian, we entered into a 30-year lease with 2 10-year extensions. And so Apollo is very much willing and able to put in the capital to reinvest into that business. There are minimum capital thresholds in our leases. There are minimum requirements in terms of things that they have to do to upkeep the asset, to maintain it in a good condition, because ultimately we own the box. But it's a very economic feasible structure, especially for somebody like an Apollo that can essentially enter into a 50-year loan. Now, if they were to leave, we would either have to find a replacement tenant or we take the asset back. We do own it at the end of the day, so we are on the hook in the event that they default and leave. But the way that they've run the business and the way that they've improved the business since taking it over is just above and beyond anybody's initial underwriting expectations. We're thrilled to be where we are.
Yeah, in my time in Vegas, we've had a number of properties imploded and rebuilt. Do you think this structure changes that? Do you think these buildings will be here longer because you're the owner?
We do, and you bring up a good point, Steve, that there are still folks on the Strip, there are still folks across the country that own their real estate, and there is a mindset that it takes a little while for people to get comfortable with to sell their real estate. Ultimately, it's what they do with the proceeds in selling us the real estate. And again, do they want to grow their business, or do they want to pay down debt? Do they want to distribute cash flow, or do they want to control the building and have say over everything that goes on in that building for the life of the asset? I think the institutionalization of gaming real estate You showed Blackstone. Obviously, we're here. I think that will change some of this implosion. It'll be very difficult for, let's just pick a Mirage since it's on the screen, for Hard Rock to come and say, we'd like to tear down the Mirage, given that you own it. If they want to do that, they still have to pay us the same amount of rent.
Right. Yeah.
They're legally obligated to that. Now, there will be some changes to the Mirage that are coming in terms of taking out the volcano and some plans that Hard Rock has that we will let them do, and that will probably give us the opportunity to invest incremental capital and put more capital into the Strip. Because again, the economic vitality of this road is like no other in the world.
Yeah. You've bought an awful lot of property over the last 5 years. Do you ever plan on selling? What would trigger a sale?
We get asked that a lot by investors. We do not plan on selling. I mean, our vehicle is a perpetual hold vehicle. Now, we have sold some things. We've sold an asset in Reno. We sold an asset in Atlantic City. We've sold an asset in Louisiana. And it comes down to the operator. In Reno, we sold the Harrah's that Caesars just did not want to maintain. And given the Eldorado Caesars merger a couple of years ago, Tom Reeg ultimately wanted to dispose of that asset, given he had some other assets. And that was being converted into an alternative use. In Atlantic City, similar situation where Caesars had enough assets. They ultimately sold Bally's to what is now called Bally's, was formerly called Twin River. And so if the operator wants to exit an asset, we work with our operator to do that. Ultimately, our rent doesn't change. And so we need to come up with a formula or some economic gives and takes that incentivizes our operator to do that. Because when an operator gets rid of an asset that's underperforming, it ultimately makes the rest of their business better. They don't have to throw capital at an asset that may be dated, or if there were an asset that may be struggling. So we're willing and able to work with our assets. But to answer your question, Steve, we don't ourselves ever think that we will sell an asset because of the strength and the quality of the cash flows that we generate from these assets.
Final words that you'd like to leave with the audience?
It's just looking at these pictures here of the assets, and one of the things that we are always amazed at, it's the economic diversity that comes out of the city by all of your businesses and all the companies that help support the city. If you, not to pick on the Venetian, but if you go back to the Venetian, 17 million square feet, only 250,000 square feet is gaming square footage. And to have a strip in the world, the road in the world that's 4.2 miles long, generates $7.5 billion of gross gaming revenue last year. And that isn't even the largest component of square footage that a lot of these assets house. That's just amazing. When you think about the food and beverage, the room revenue, the entertainment revenue, the other revenue that comes out of this city, it's just part of the reason we love it. And you've talked about it, Steve, Jeremy's talked about it, constantly reinventing yourselves and constantly bringing new things to the city. F1, the Super Bowl. We were talking backstage. The convention space here is second to none in the world.
David Kiske, thank you for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, David Kiske.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope to see you at Preview Las Vegas in 2024. Thank you for watching this edition of Like Nobody's Business. I'm Mary Beth Seawald.